Good evening, everyone. Nice to have you all here. Today, we have Stefan Van Hoedonk with us, talking to us about coaching curiosity and mindfulness. Curiosity, mind, all these are this part of the body is really such a complex thing. We all know it, and any number of times we talk about these words: curiosity, mindfulness, and now in the context of a coaching, it's just mind blowing. It always there is a new learning to take. We all know that being curious is the way of life. Everything that happens around us, we have some curiosity because it increases our knowledge. It makes us feel like, yeah, when we are more informed about things around us, we feel very comfortable. And the more we know, we keep on going forward and like trying to know even more. So that's where curiosity goes to its peak. And talking in a spiritual way, we are all limited to this body, so even everything has a limitation. Even curiosity is beautiful in some portions. If it goes beyond, then it gets into a different zone. Probably you could call it beyond intelligence, and people may get annoyed with too much of your curiosity also. So there is some mindfulness aspect also to be added in developing this skill of curiosity. Not, we have progressed so much in this on this earth and even beyond only because of curiosity. So it's such a positive thing to have. And today we are going to explore a bit more from Stephen's mind, try to understand what he has in his mind. He is just a bit about this session. What we're going to cover uh, would be he's going to relate this curiosity and mindfulness in such a way, showing that it's a related trait of awareness about self and also the environment. Purely not just self, he's mixed it with the environment, so it's a collective thing. So living with full awareness in every moment is what is called mindfulness, and presence and intentionality, which enables us to be in tune and charge of ourselves. So discovering these fascinating insights would be happening during this masterclass uh, with Stephen with us here. A bit about Stephen. Stephen is the founder of the Global Curiosity Institute, uh, but before that, he has spent almost 3 decades in acquiring global exposure in various leadership roles. When I chatted with him the other day, he said India, he calls it his second home. And we also talked about connected nervous system. We went to that level of discussion. So it was a it was nice to know about how he spends his day. He's going to even talk about it today in his session now. So, in this 3 decades, he has worked in multiple leadership roles, and he also brings deep insights into modern workplace learning and a learning culture, global transformation and change management, knowledge management, and learning at scale. So Stephen is, yeah, I'm sure many would have heard about him. He's a regular speaker at many international conferences. He has talked on topics like corporate universities, learning strategies, and innovation. And he's recently moved out of a role as chief learning officer role in the uh, in the past few years. And he emphasizes on what innovation has to do in this 21st century. It's so important to be always innovative. So before I hand over to Stephen, just a quick the guidelines on how we'll be using the this time, 1 hour. So we'll let Stephen share with us what he has to share. Any questions you may have, please put it in the Q&A. I will be helping Stephen look at the questions wherever he needs my help. If anyone wants to ask him any questions, please raise hand. I think there's a provision to get you on the stage. You could try that and see yourself on the stage. Curiosity, how you look at on the stage. So yeah, let's get started. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you
Curiosity
so much.
started
Thank
now.
you so much. Thank you much, Shanti. I'm sharing my screen. Um,
and really lovely to be here with everybody. We have now 124 or so colleagues all around the room. I understand that we're sitting here with coaches, with aspiring coaches, people that are involved in coaching. I have had the good fortune to do quite a number of coaching myself, so I'm happy to be here amongst colleagues. I was a little bit anxious to talk about mindfulness because the majority of people here, and when I looked at the names, are from India, and it's a bit daunting for a non-Indian to talk about something that was born in your country, you know. But at the same time, I'm a little bit eased in my thinking that when I was working, I worked for 2 years in Bangalore for Flipkart. I was the head of knowledge management and learning. When I started doing yoga and meditation, all my young colleagues said, "Oh, that's something my grandmother does. I'm not interested anymore." So that gives me a little bit of a feeling that that maybe we can talk a little bit about this. So very quickly about myself. Indeed, I've been working, as Shanti mentioned, in many organizations. I've been chief learning officer for quite a number of years, spent time in quite a number of countries. I meditate myself every day, and also I've been a coach. So I'll be looking at curiosity. I actually founded the Curiosity Institute last year as a way to really help individuals and curiosity to focus on these really important mindsets that we need in the 21st century. In the chat quickly, can you let me know which city you're from and what you want to learn? I already saw from Yadagiri that you wanted to learn about the definition of curiosity and mindfulness, but what else would you like to hear from me?
Yeah, quick fingers.
How to measure curiosity, curious about curiosity, aspiring to be a life coach, how curiosity could help a coach, cool. Bangalore, many from Ahmedabad. I've never been to Ahmedabad. I'm sorry about that. I've been to London, I've been to Bangalore, I've been to Mumbai. Developing presence, okay. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of an idea what we want to do, and I think we'll be able to cover some of these dimensions. Now, when we're looking at curiosity, I think we can all agree that, and I think Shanti already agreed to this has been the engine of progress for individuals, for teams, for organizations, even for society. Curiosity is what got us out of the savannah 70,000 years ago. And it starts with basic questions. Why, what, if? And that's how fire got developed, why we developed the microwave, how we find our mates, how we create relationships, even spirituality. And I think with coaching, and if you are a coach, you immediately, of course, we learn in coaching sessions that we're not supposed to be asking questions like why, which I sometimes find not really relevant. But this is basically about asking deeper questions. And we're going to explore this a little bit. Now, I think Shanti, in her start, said already, oh, too much curiosity is not a good thing. And actually in society, we have this love-hate relationship with curiosity. On the one hand, we say it's bad, and we frown upon curiosity. A lot of companies don't allow for curiosity. We have this saying, curiosity killed the cat, as if curiosity is a bad thing. Do you know that in the 19th century, we had a different saying. We had a saying, care kills the cat. And care in those days meant to worry or to grieve. So that saying had a very positive dimension. And then suddenly, we don't know why, somewhere at the end of the 19th century, the vocabulary changed and we suddenly said curiosity killed the cat. But somehow we added also an extra sentence behind it, but satisfaction brought it back, which is a nice way of describing it. But indeed, it is true that we have this love-hate relationship. If you're looking at the Bible, for instance, Eve, when eating the fruit of the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge and evil, according to some, she's the first scientist. According to others, she is the person who brought all this trouble upon the world. And Also, when you're asking leaders, you see here a quote that I've created. Basically, everybody that I talk to in the corporate space, they say that investing in curiosity to drive innovation is a good thing. But when I ask them a follow-on question and say, do you like to introduce innovation in your organization? And only half of the people say that innovation is good, because too much innovation detracts the team from being efficient. And I think when you're dealing with executive coaches, I think that you might also see that companies are still very much focused on making sure that you don't have too much innovation, because people shy away from that. Now, I'd like to make it a little bit interactive. And in the chat, I'd like you to say, this is an easy one. I think is this true or false? If you put a frog in cold water and gradually heat up the pot, the frog will boil to death. True or false? Just write a T or an F, whatever you want, in the chat. I can't see anything coming back. Oh yeah. So there's some true, there's some false.
Yeah.
False, true. I think it's a bit mixed. It's the disadvantage. Boiling frog syndrome. It depends. No, Shrikant, it does not depend. It's either true or false. Okay. It's hard for me to see what the majority is. This is wrong. This is something that was created in the 19th century, and we go with it. This is a good example to give an idea that you might have heard this somewhere, and it sounds plausible, and we don't ask you any more questions. We're not really curious about it anymore. Maybe you can do a little Googling later on. It's actually completely wrong. If you put a frog in cold water and gradually the frog will actually jump out, and of course the frog will also be burnt and everything. It's absolutely not true. So that's an idea of how much we actually take things for granted. And that's maybe already the first indication of mindfulness. Are we mindful of things that are or are not, versus, and also when we're dealing with our coaches. Another one. More medical complications occur when doctors are older. So is it does experience influence complications? False. A lot of false. No correlation. Herman. False. True. Okay. No relation. Okay. Actually, let me kind of help you from your pain. It's true. Actually, they found in quite some research in North America that experience does not relate to expertise. Or basically, the older, what I'm trying to say is, the older the doctors or the more experience they have, the more medical complications they have. So you might think that people with gray hair and lots of experience represent knowledge, and therefore they're going to help you better. But as we will see in the next slide, actually arrogance and overconfidence leads to basically diminishing curiosity, diminishing interest, because people might be running on routine. Younger doctors, on the other hand, you might say that they're about 80 or 90% sure of what the reality should be, but they're not sure for about 10% or 10 or 20%. And that 10 or 20% of wonder really makes them hungry about double checking. And to check with research, check with others whether they're on the right track. Something that older doctors don't do because they think they know it all. So I saw that Raj was wrong on both counts. Don't worry, my friend. Now, and this is basically a graph that I wanted to show about some psychology around curiosity. Think of this also in terms of your coaching practices. Curiosity over knowledge. On the left-hand side, you can see ignorance. If you don't know anything about a certain subject, then it's hard for you to be curious. If you don't know anything about black holes or dark matter or the Yoga Sutra, doesn't really matter, then you're not going to ask questions about that specific things. Now, if on the other hand, the arrogance and the confidence is very much in the area of those experienced doctors. Now, the sweet spot of curiosity is in between wonder and confidence. Do I have enough knowledge? Yes or no? Am I willing to be this novice? Remember what Steve Jobs was talking about. He said something like, stay hungry, stay foolish. That's exactly what this means. Because only in the state of foolishness, of the state of wonder, you can learn new things. You don't take things for granted. And again, reflect on that when you're a coach yourself or when you're dealing with others, that it's really key for people to understand themselves. Now, well, I think, Rika, this applies to coaches too. If a coach thinks that he or she knows all the answers, then you're not a coach and you should become a mentor. Or if you know it all, and if you have, then if you're not hungry, as a coach, you're never going to be able to have empathy, because empathy means letting go. Empathy means not putting yourself in the middle, but inviting the other person to be in the middle. So that's also where you can. This probably is also the optimal area of curiosity for a coach indeed. Now, when doing some research, and I'm trying to do quite a bit of research with mainly professionals, when I ask them, a curious professional is more likely to, I get these answers. And it's about getting an idea, creating an idea, sharing ideas, and seeking out new experiences. And the other ones is not really relevant. Having unique talent at work, actually men think that having a unique talent is more important than women when it relates to curiosity. Having a lot of friends at work is more relevant for younger people below 30, especially people below 24, really the younger generation. And speaking multiple language is not an issue in countries where there is a predominant language. It is an issue in Canada. It is an issue in my native Belgium, where you have 2 languages, but otherwise this is typically the picture of what you're having. I'm trying to follow a little bit the chat, but it's a bit hard to give a presentation. So, but I see that you're chatting with each other, which is great. Okay, another one which also links to mindfulness. True or false? Do I breathe at one time in my right nostril and then in my left, or do I breathe in through my 2 noses at the same time? And Shanti is trying. I see 3 truths. Everybody else is thinking.
Worth trying, easy, right?
No, people are hesitant, I guess. Okay, false, left and right, false, true. So I see also a division. No one is dominating, a division between the 2. It depends on the day for me. Interesting. Actually, this is actually. I was a bit hesitant to ask this for a group of Indian colleagues. Actually, this is true, and this is a wisdom that comes out of the Indian yogic tradition. That every 40 minutes or so, you change your breathing pattern, and it has to do with left and right brains, and it has to do with your spine and everything else. But now think about this. How often do we think about whether we are breathing from our left or right nose? We don't think about it. Often I'm also asking a mindfulness question is, how many steps can you take on one breath? And people often answer me, I never thought of it. Because we just don't do these type of things. And I think as coaches, but also as coachees, when we're dealing with, it's important to look for the things that are not obvious, and to ask questions. When I see Shureka, can you take 25 steps on one breath? You're surely a yogi. But that's an interesting, I think, dimension for us to look at breathing. For those who have taken my free diagnostic, if you go to my website, globalcuriosity.com, you can do a free diagnostic, and you will get a report on how well your own personal curiosity profile looks like. And I define curiosity as the confluence of 3 dimensions: the world, others, and ourselves. So how interested am I in the world? So we call that cognitive curiosity. This is the popular definition of curiosity. And then I have another dimension is empathic curiosity, something that coaches are really good at. How curious am I about others? And then the third one, probably which is the most difficult one, is how curious am I going inwards? I have 2 eyes to look outside, but I don't have any eyes to look inside. So how curious am I in myself, in my beliefs, in my biases, in my purpose, in my values, in why I say the things I say, why I think the things I think. And so these are the 3 dimensions, and the report gives you feedback on these 3 dimensions when you take it. Now, specifically for coaches, I think coaches really are key in empathy, because that's what it's all about now. It's giving people, being in this peaceful space with others, so that others can open up. And you can only do that by being empathic and by asking simple yet powerful questions, and allowing people to become self-reflective. So curiosity of ourselves is really enhanced when you have a right coach asking the right questions, which I think is quite powerful for coaches, actually. You know that Shanti gave me the idea to do a masterclass specifically for coaches, how to read this report, because I'm sure you can use this for your coachees already now, in giving an extra dimensions to your coachees, how to look at themselves. And maybe they're good at curiosity of the world. Maybe they're good at empathic curiosity. The beauty with this is you're always good at something, and you can always improve in something else. Curiosity is a muscle. You're never perfect. This is like a mindset, a state of being, something you can always improve on. Now, what would be the opposite of curiosity? Arrogance, habit, cool. Judgment, rigidity. Could we capture these, Shanti? I'd love to capture these. If somebody can share with me the dump of judgment, cool. Inertia, lack of interest, Raj. Fixed mindset, fixed is important. Closed mind, indeed. Ignorant, being ignorantly happy. Stagnant, indifference, boy, cool. Stubbornness, important. Egoistic. Now, I've settled on another I've settled so far, and we'll be talking about a number of these terms that you've given. I've settled on 2 terms: conformity or compliance. And you'll see later on in the definition that I give, is that curiosity really challenges the status quo and takes us out of this comfortable zone, to move into an uncertain future, to look for questions that other people don't have, to learn new things, to explore, to discover, to challenge the status quo. And here you see some pictures about, for instance, Galileo Galilei, who really was curious about how whether the sun turns around the sun or the other way around. Or you see a picture of Daedalus and Icarus, where the young Icarus wanted to fly higher to the sun and lower to the sea, and was really curious about this experience. And also technology, you see, is driving technology. So when you're looking at, if you're conformist, you're not really going to be curious. And I think a lot of the dimensions, the ignorance, the know-it-all, the rigidity, the disinterest, is related to what I'm trying to see here. But love your feedback. I'd love to kind of tap into all the great things you said here. Interestingly, at the business level, although curiosity is something weird, and who thinks about words like curiosity? You know, we use it in everyday life, but we don't really think about it. Interestingly, business academics are starting to pay attention to it. First of all, especially for companies, but I would also say, of course, for individuals as well. Curiosity is really important for enterprises' performance, even by making changes at a company, and I would say also at an individual level. You can change, you can encourage curiosity more, improve yourself, improve your companies. And an interesting finding also is that although managers say that they value curiosity, actually most of them stifle it. And that's something to think about, whether you're a manager yourself or whether you're a subordinate, whether my organization supports curiosity, yes or no. And my manager. For instance, you might know of yourself or your coachees that they say, I'm not good enough. And therefore I'm not going to answer questions, or I'm not going to ask any questions. People might think, like, what would people think of me? Because my image is at stake here. I don't want to be this person who doesn't know, who asks these weird questions. Or companies might say things like, we always do it that way, so shut up and stay with the class, type of a thing, you know. Or they might say, oh, you have a beautiful idea, but not in the employer's time. Try it in the weekend. You know, or time is money, and your ideas don't fit in. And indeed, what you said, Mayur said, rebels are dangerous, because curiosity somehow has something unruly around it, because people think that it's harder to manage curious people. And sometimes people sometimes ask me that actually when they're interviewing for new jobs, that the interviewers are not interested about curious people. On the contrary, they're interested in compliant people, on conformist people. And Rekha, indeed, it's not something. It starts at home. There's definitely a relation to home. There's also a relation to the educational system. There's a relation to peers. Whether as a teenager you meet the right people, with people that uplift you and tell you that asking questions is a good thing, or people that say no, not really. You know that a child is asking about 50 questions a day, sometimes more. Yet, while we get adults, or while we get adolescents, we only ask for one single question a day. And when we turn adults, we only ask procedural questions. What do I do to fit in? And what do I do to please my manager, so that I don't get in trouble? And that's bad. That's not really curiosity driven. So that's why my definition of curiosity is really the mindset to challenge status quo, explore, discover, and learn. And you can apply this to individuals, to coachees, to teams, to organizations, and that's maybe. Now, Rajan, when you talk about growth mindset is really curiosity in action. And that's the best way I can describe it. Curiosity and growth mindset are closely related, but curiosity is the action part of growth mindset. Another one, especially for the people that that are related in learning or in deeper psychology. What happens with your brain when you're curious about a subject? Do you learn better, and do you also remember other things better? Some people are saying true. I see Heyman. I see you answering quite often, Heyman. It's great to have you on board. True, indeed, true. It depends on how they felt. Well, okay, I'll say a bit about that, Major. It's great. Some people say false. I see Raj, you're saying true. And Raj, I'm going to compliment you. You are indeed true. Curiosity has nothing to do with one single thing. If you're curious, you open up your entire brain to remembering things better and being open. That's why it's so important for a coach to be really giving this nice space between the coachee and the coach to allow this person to be at ease and therefore be more receptive for new ideas that come from within. Or for the L&D folks, that's why, for instance, compliance training in company is so bad, because somebody else decides that I should be learning something. Now, if companies are allowing people to learn, their employees to learn themselves, they're always going to remember more. They're always going to be more engaged in that learning, and they're going to be more engaged at work. So that's probably. I think most of you have that, of course, right. How to recognize a curious professional? I think we have already covered most of these dimensions. It's about constant learner versus accidental learner. Are you only going deep and broad? Because that's the difference. Sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I'm curious all the time." Now, there is not such a thing that to be curious all the time. Some people have a better inclination towards curiosity because of executive powers or because of experience or because of family upbringing. But curiosity is more a state than a personality trait. It's something that we need to have, where it's like being in a flow, being in flow. You only are in flow when everything is perfect, when the environment is perfect, and when you're also in that environment are perfect. So going deep and broad is really important. That you're not only focusing on the things that that is part of your specialization, but that you also explore other things. Remember what IBM and Toyota have in this kind of T-shaped employee? One dimension goes deep and one dimension goes broad. And that's really an underpinning of curiosity. You see growth mindset here indeed. And that's kind of something. So what Devarajan, you ask, curious people also say that going with the flow is a positive approach. I think, I'm not sure whether going with the flow is being curious. It really depends. I think you have to come up with some cases, I think. So it's hard. Let me think about it. Maybe at the end of the presentation, I'll be able to say something meaningful. Now, maybe some tips. When you are with yourself, when you are with others, I think definitely related to the mindfulness dimension is be mindful in the present. That's why it's so important when you're coaching or when you're having a meeting, for that matter, not to have your computer open, not to have your phone close by. Just be looking in people's eyes and be present in the moment, and try also not to wander with your mind. And it's harder than you think. But that's kind of an important one. Another one I think important, question your teaspoons. Something so familiar as teaspoons or a drop of water, or look for the magic in the familiar. Pay attention to your partner. Most people divorce not because they're fighting, but just because they're bored with each other. They stop being curious. So pay attention, look for the magic in that partner, in that teaspoon. Break routine, buy the book next to the one you want to buy, online or in a bookstore. Let serendipity guide you. Part of this broad, and I have that in the next one, go broad and deep. Be an expert. Go deep in your specialization, absolutely, but also go broadly. And that's maybe also something that you can kind of give back to your coachees. It's not only about going deep. Going deep helps you in your specialization. Going broad helps you with happiness, helps you in promotion, helping you go deeper because you understand more broadly the world. Learn something new, be humble, stay foolish. Watch out for confidence. Remember our story about the old doctors. Make it a daily ritual. Some people that I'm working with have something on the mirror in the morning. So when you're brushing their teeth, they're advising themselves, please let me be curious. Curious about the world, curious about others, curious about myself. And in the evening, when they're brushing their teeth again, they're asking themselves another question: was I curious about the world, about others, and myself? And I think it's a beautiful way to create a habit. And I think also explore new and current relationships. Try to have lunch with people that you don't like. Don't look for that familiarity all the time. Trying to find, I think it was it President Roosevelt who said, I don't like that person, I need to get to know him better. And I think that's a beautiful way of describing. And I think as a coach also, I think that's all what we do now. Now, interesting part about asking and giving and being grateful for feedback. In my research, I found that for frontline managers, only 23% are asking for feedback. So 77 are not asking for feedback. How am I doing as your manager? As coaches, I would ask the same question to your coachees. How am I doing? Put yourself in that vulnerable spot for a second. And there's so much learning that can happen if you're just open up to that curiosity about how am I doing as a manager, as a human being. Ask your son, how am I your father? How can I do a better job as your father, type of things. As to your parents, ask, how can I be a better daughter? Those type of questions, and open up yourself. And I think you'll see what magic will happen. I spoke already about this flow, this notion of flow. Curious individuals need curious environments, whether it's a society, whether it's a religion, whether it's a company, whether it's a team. So these are equally important. It's nature versus nurture. I was just looking at Heyman's. So ask me any question. Now, in my work with companies, and I'm sure you're dealing with quite a number of executives, or you are an executive, or you work for a company, is that workplace curiosity is really something beautiful. It increases competitiveness, innovation, productivity, engagement, learning of both company and individuals. But very few companies are proactive about it. Very few companies are intentional about it. Very few companies have curiosity in their values, in their processes, and that's a frightening thing, especially in times of change. In the 20th century, we didn't have a lot of change, so stability was fine. Nowadays, we have much more dynamic situations. And look at COVID. The entire world were turned upside down. You need curious people. You need curious organizations to help in driving this. And those companies who are intentional, look at startups. Startups are intentional about curiosity because they're exploration minded. They're doing much better. So sometimes I'm seeing companies. Talk about the knowing-doing gap. When you ask companies, professionals indicate a curious individual is more likely to generate ideas at work. People say yes, But then if I ask them a follow-on questions, did you volunteer new ideas recently? Then much fewer people say that. Or companies might say, my company encourages curiosity, but almost the same amount of people, they say my company blocks curiosity or creates barriers for curiosity. Or also, and then we'll open it for questions, you see that some demographics are much more sensitive to curiosity than others. People under the age of 30, they feel less empowered. They say that I feel micromanaged more than the people over 30, and they don't believe their companies is full of innovation. Mid-managers are 4 times more negative to curiosity than senior managers or frontline managers. Or if people are more than 3 years in a role, they suddenly, their curiosity levels go down because they feel too much part of the furniture almost. So that's a case for job rotation. So, and also interestingly for the female colleagues around us here, the room, is that female professionals have given me feedback in the surveys and the diagnostics that I've been doing, that they're less curious, they have less time to be curious at work than men. And they also receive less support for professional development compared to their male partners. Maybe it's perception, but in any case, there is something happening here, which is weird. So that's about that's what I had roughly, and I think we have about 15 minutes for Q&A, and I hope that's fine, Shanti.
Yes, we're on time. Good questions coming up, and yeah, I've made a good notes actually while you were speaking. I did concentrate on your session too. Nice flow in the chat. So anyone has any questions, you can please use the Q&A. Right now there are a few. I can read out a few for you, Stephen. Would you want me to?
Of course. Yeah, sure.
Puneet wants to ask you, what are the forms of curiosity that may not serve a coaching conversation?
Well, I think beautiful question. Not everything is curiosity driven. Sometimes people say just questions are linked to curiosity, but closed questions are not curiosity driven. If the answer is only yes or no or true or false, then you're not going to help with sparking a curious conversation with your coachee. So open questions are definitely the way to go. And otherwise, I don't think that's for the coach to decide. I think that's for the coachee to see where the conversation ends up. Because it's, at least when I did coaching, it's never my conversation. It's always a conversation of my coachee. Where not to go, if my coachee wanted to go into dark places, like suicide and other things, then that's also fine. But of course, you need to know yourself whether you have the tools as a coach to deal with that or not. So it's more how much are you aware of yourself and your skills before you get into a meaningful coaching conversation. I hope it makes sense a little bit.
Yeah, it's so. Puneet, you could ask a follow-up question if you like to. Yeah, and there's
Abhijit has a nice comment. Nosy curiosity might not serve the coaching, but that's from the perspective of the coach. Of course, you shouldn't be nosy because background of cases, we shouldn't be caring. We shouldn't. Well, I have learned with coaching that we only look forward and not backwards. So going too deep, explaining me what happened last year, and it's all was never a part of my coaching discussions, at least. So that nosy curiosity from the coach is irrelevant in my humble opinion.
Thank you, Stephen. So I can read out another question. Devrajan Iyer has asked, how can one enhance one's curiosity levels, or is there a balance that is advocated? I have observed people cringing when people, irrespective of age, ask too many questions. There's no specific category, but then. Yeah.
Well, I think I explained some tips and tricks. If people are annoyed when you ask too many questions, I'd say look for different friends, because that means that these people are not really uplifting you. I'm often using the same case with parents. And I made a mistake. My youngest, I have 4 children. My youngest is 18. My oldest is 26 now. And when you said earlier, Shanti, that I'm 30 years of experience, that makes me feel really old.
Just
but that's fine. That's fine. Now, when my kids were young, when they asked too many questions, we put them in front of television or we gave them an iPad. But I've learned in the meantime, that's the worst thing you can do, because curiosity is social. People need to have dialogue with others, and the way that kids ask questions is not to have answers, also to have answers, but also to have this dialogue with somebody they respect. And so if you give them an iPad or put them in front of the computer or television, then you basically take away that opportunity for them for dialogue. And I think that's maybe a trip, and that's the same for adults, I think. I think asking questions is always good, and if you're not supposed to be asking questions, if your manager or your environment says don't ask those questions, then I'd say either challenge and change the environment or look for another job.
Yeah, that's nice. I brought Sunita Diaz on the stage. Sunita wanted to ask you a question. Sunita,
Yeah.
are you able to?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You have to show yourself, Sunita.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You're bored of looking at each other.
Yeah, right.
Yes, Sunita.
All right, very nice. I read about Global Curiosity Institute. I've never knew. It's very interesting, and curiosity is one of my traits. So, can you quickly tell us a little bit about your institute? First time I'm hearing.
Yeah, okay, fine. Now, curiosity, as I've explained earlier, it's not a trait, it's a state. You're not going to tell me that you're curious all the time. But anyway, that aside. The Curiosity Institute, I started that last year, last summer, because I was in my role as Chief Learning Officer in many organizations. And my last company was Cognizant, and I was in India for 2 weeks every month. Because we had 200,000 people working in India, and they all needed to develop and they all needed to get better. So I got really excited by the notion of curiosity, because in companies you see those people, I call them A players. And these people are all the time on top of their game. They're learning, they know how to learn, they read books. They don't need the learning organizations to help them, they just get on with it. And they have this nice humility, knowing that they can always learn more, and they just do it. And then you have the B players, people that want to learn, but they need some electricity, they need a manager, or they need an organization, or they need a process. That's why we create all these gaming things in companies, because we think we have to put things on a golden platter, because otherwise people might not consume our stuff. That's how learning and development people think very often, you know. Now, my question always was, how do I turn such B players into A players?
Okay.
Because what magic could that? And I stumbled upon the notion of curiosity. If we create, if we train people in mindsets, if we give people the notion that you can, it's like growth mindset, fixed mindset. If people have never heard of the difference, they cannot reflect. Language is an important tool for reflection. So same with curiosity. If you give people tools that there are ways to become more curious. For instance, already there's a difference between cognitive, empathic, and self-reflective curiosity. People start thinking, maybe I'm curious with my boss, but I'm not curious at home, you know. And I saw really dramatic changes in my last company, that people start looking at the world differently, and they become these A players. Not everybody, but at least 50%. And that's why I said, boy, this is really powerful. I want to do something and I have some diagnostics. I help companies to either look at process, do we recruit for curiosity? Do we promote for curiosity? Do we those type of things? And I'm doing diagnostics with company, and I'm doing research. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, wonderful. Because
Bye, Chris.
Thank you for coming on the stage, Sunita.
Yeah,
Move
thank
on
you
to the
very
next
much.
question. Yeah, there are some questions around boundaries of curiosity. I'm just consolidating a few questions so that we cover many. Sureka, Sriram is asking, why are adults afraid or embarrassed of being curious? And Meera asked, can curiosity lead to overthinking? All these seem to be related, so I'm just reading off these three.
Well, sometimes people talk about age and curiosity, and it is true that from the age of 6 or 7 or so, even at that young age, children lose a little bit their power to take risks in the pursuit of searching answers to novelty. That's why kids might kind of burn their finger on the stove, because they want to take risk, because they want to find out whether this flame is hot, yes or no. And we lose that from the age of 8 or so. So once we get older, there's a number of probably detractors for curiosity. One is anxiety. People might become afraid. One might be routine. One might be apathy. Another thing might be lack of knowledge, because knowledge needs curiosity. The more you know, the more you're going to ask questions. And that's, for instance, a challenge with technology. The search engines, they make it so easy for us to find solutions that we actually lose the capability to ask the right questions. Because somehow you need that discipline. For me, the difference between productive and non-productive curiosity is non-productive curiosity is this rabbit hole. You know, we all experience this. We have this question either because we want to be entertained, or we have a question and we do some search, and 3 hours later we're still looking at something and we've forgotten our initial question, and we've basically wasted. We didn't learn anything.
Yep.
Even by looking at those videos and all the rest, we didn't learn anything. So productive curiosity for me is having a question, yes, at the beginning, but also have the right focus and the right discipline in the pursuit of an answer to that question. And I think that's a big difference between productive versus non-productive curiosity, because curiosity is such a broad word. It's, on the one hand, I'm curious because I hear a tweet on a beep on my phone, and I'm curious to see who sent me some WhatsApp message or whatever. And on the other hand, it's Einstein discovering the universe. And that's all encompassed in this one single word, you know. So it's important to have kind of to demystify that word and to cut it up in many different dimensions. I only had 1 hour. There's many more things to do to talk about curiosity, but that's something I hope makes sense in answering your question.
Yeah, definitely. There are takeaways for any answer. You know, a question can lead to another question and it goes on. It's like surfing. Yeah, I had a question and I see there are a few upwards, so I would take a turn to ask my question. Is being at peace termed as lack of curiosity?
Say again,
Is being at peace, someone staying calm, is it termed as lack of curiosity?
Oh, no, I don't think so. On the contrary. I've done, I told you that I do meditation, and I've done now 3 times Vipassana, so I got these 10-day silence meditations. And these are the moments for me that kind of to be deeply at peace in such sessions. And you don't have those moments very often. But these are moments when all of your senses, apart from your eyes, are so open to the world, to receiving things. So being I'd say no. I think being peaceful is opening up your entire body and soul to novelty of the world of others, including yourself. And I think there it also links to mindfulness. I think how important that is.
Do you have time for one more question? We are just after 3 more minutes.
Yeah.
Question. There's a question from Durga. Are curiosity and vulnerability related?
Definitely. When we spoke about the manager asking for feedback to subordinates, it's a second of vulnerability, asking how am I doing as your manager. Managers prefer to give feedback, but not to ask for feedback. And it's putting you definitely in a vulnerable mode. Also as a coach, it puts you in a vulnerable mode because you don't know what's going on in the head of your coachee. And you shouldn't be steering too much. So how do you let go? And the beauty is the more you let go of trying to steer somebody, the more the person will grow. You might not grow, but that's not the objective, because you're here to serve somebody else when you're coaching people, I think. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, we made you talk non-stop for 1 hour. Yeah. I hope there are takeaways for everyone in this session, and I'm sure you have thoroughly enjoyed the session too, with so many questions coming.
It's lovely.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. I hope I was able to share some thoughts, spark some ideas which you can use yourself, maybe also with your coaches, or maybe within your future coaching approach or your present one. And I wish you a curious life.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. Thank you. And I like the way you clarified some of the myths that we are living with, and look at the magic in the familiar. Wow, great takeaways. Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us and adding to the curiosity. Me and Stephen talked about connected nervous system, and that's the way I'm connected to him now. And we have 130 more connected today. Wow.